Marcus Aurelius conveys a monumental, larger-than-life-size feeling. More importantly, it marks the close of an age. The classical realism and naturalism of the first 2 centuries of the empire came to an abrupt halt in 180 AD under the rule of Commodus, son of Marcus Aurelius. Inheriting none of his father's administrative genius and sense of justice, Commodus was a decadent, tyrannical ruler. His only positive contribution was the completion of the memorial column planned by Marcus Aurelius. A brief comparison of Aurelius's column with that of Trajan, completed 70 years before, immediately demonstrates the new abstract, expressionistic style known as late antique. Note how simplified the scene from Aurelius's column is compared with the elaborate detail in Trajan's frieze. While the carving on Trajan's column was quite flat, the modeling on Aurelius's column, seen here, is now deeply cut and drilled, creating an exciting, rough-hewn, and merciless picture of war. No longer is the emperor seen in profile addressing his men in a fully detailed setting, as is seen here on the column of Trajan. Instead, each scene on Aurelius's column is abstract and schematized, with the emperor turned more toward the spectator. Human pity for the vanquished barbarians, which was evident in Trajan's column, is strikingly absent here. Now the bodies of the barbarians are twisted in angular, distorted rhythms. The style is sketchy, and the figures leap out at the spectator. After Commodus, for almost the whole 3rd century, the empire was ruled by a series of soldier emperors. The empire had grown too unwieldy to be run in peace from Rome. And as the chaotic conditions increased, artistic style grew more and more sketchy and confused as unessential details were omitted. This is evident even in the badly damaged relief from the arch of Septimus Severus, the first of the soldier emperors, and the first emperor who didn't gain power through blood relationship or the express wish of his predecessor. Instead, Severus was catapulted into power by his army, setting a precedent that resulted in 19 changes of government in the next 72 years. Here are some of the men who briefly reigned. Notice the careworn, troubled expressions on their faces. During the 3rd century, the tide of Roman conquest also turned. No longer were the Romans the aggressors. Here you see a Roman prisoner in the hands of a barbarian tribe. They now had to defend Italy against barbarians who were drawn by the wealth and grandeur of the empire. Here the barbarians set an angry lion against the Roman defenders. The soldier emperors, afraid to leave Rome for fear they would be ousted, rarely accompanied their armies. Thus, even victories were uninspiring events, and the historical narrative relief, so characteristic of Roman artistic achievement for 200 years, died out with the arch of Septimus Severus. The historical narrative was revived for the last time in the Arch of Constantine more than 100 years later. With his dream of returning to the peaceful era of Augustus, which led him to shave off his beard in favor of Augustus's youthful look, Constantine represented the only person with sufficient force of personality to pull the empire together for a final burst of glory. In the late antique abstract style of art, we see his army's victory at the Milvian Bridge, a victory which gave Constantine total power over the Roman Empire. When 15 years later he moved the capital from Rome to Constantinople, he signed the death warrant for Rome as the hub of civilization, a position it had occupied for 500 years. It is therefore appropriate that the Arch of Constantine, besides reviving the historical narrative relief as seen here, also has physically borrowed sections from historical reliefs of the past, namely from the time of Trajan in the frieze on the inside wall of the arch, from the time of Hadrian in the circular medallions, and from the era of Marcus Aurelius in the panels from the Attic story. How dramatically these reliefs from former eras point up the clumsy, abstract style which marked the end of Roman art. Perhaps when Constantine decided to borrow from the past, he foresaw that his memorial arch would be the last on Roman soil, and thus he purposely intended it to be a perfect summary of the best of Roman art.